Welcome, I'm Kinetic Symphony. This is Dave. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the supernatural. Case file number 2019, written by Naomi. A pub, a quiz, and the questions that fizzed. On our trip to the UK in 2011, my husband and my cousin and I got in on a pub quiz in York. We weren't really interested at first, so we didn't take any answer sheets. But to pass the time, I went ahead and started writing down the answers on my own sheet of paper. I started with number 1, so we didn't miss any. Around number 15, I believe, I heard the lady who was calling out the questions skip to 17 or something. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know she skipped at least 2. As my husband was at the bar at the moment, I looked to my cousin for confirmation that I had heard correctly, and he agreed that he had skipped a couple of numbers. I expected some participant in the quiz to correct her or ask about it, but nobody said anything. The lady went on calling out questions. She continued in order to number 25, then suddenly she skipped to 29. Again, this anomaly was confirmed by my cousin, and also my husband, who was back at the table. And again, nobody corrected the lady or asked about the skipped numbers. I could only assume that 1, the quiz worked in some odd way we weren't familiar with, or 2, somebody would point out the mistake before the lady called out the answers. Maybe ask what those questions were. However, that never happened. The question stopped at 30, and then the lady began calling out the answers. I waited curiously for her to get to the number she had skipped. I was positive that when she called out these answers, somebody in the pub would protest and say that she never had even given out the questions. Instead, when she did get to those numbers, 16, 26 to 28, I remembered those questions being called out. By the end of the answers, I realized that every answer she had called out had been to a question that I had in fact heard her ask. What's more, my husband and cousin were both remembering those questions too. The fact that I literally keep track on paper makes this even weirder. We couldn't figure it out. We never did figure it out. Incidentally, we were sipping on our first beer, so it's not like we were drunk. There appeared to be no confusion in the pub whatsoever. Unfortunately, we didn't think to ask anyone else in the pub if they had observed the same thing we did. I wish so much that we had. Case file 2019. A pub, a quiz, and the questions that fizzed. Okay, this one is quite unique. Questions weren't asked, not verbally, but they were almost asked subconsciously, almost telepathically, but only after the fact. It's like a delayed punch where you don't feel it until later on. Very curious, of course with information instead. And it's good that you had witnesses that experienced the same thing. This kind of thing can make you go crazy, absolutely. And you know, it wouldn't surprise me if everyone else in the bar experienced the same thing. But most people are just not introverts, but they don't want to rock the boat in any way in social gatherings like that. I don't think most people would ask, especially if they find out, yeah, okay, well that was weird, but the questions are coming in, I remember now, even though they were never asked. Now what could cause that? It was selective memory suppression at a local level, but probably across the entire bar, or at least across your table. Maybe there are devices, I think, that can induce temporary, short-term memory loss. But why would anyone test that in a bar? That's a weird place to test it. Case file number 2020, written by bethydontsurf. Glitch in time, 7:30 chimed. My boyfriend and I had a glitch. Well, more like time just stopped. Hang in there with me for this story. Myself and my boyfriend and his son were getting into the car after dinner. He made a point to point at the clock at 6:45 p.m. and say boyfriend's daughter should be finished with her cheerleading and should be heading home at around 8. So it was 6:45 p.m. It takes around 15 minutes to get back to our house from dinner. We got home, we messed around for let's say another 20 minutes, and then started a movie. Here's where the glitch happens. My boyfriend turned to me almost all the way through the movie and asked what time it was. I tapped my phone to check and it was 7:30 p.m. 7:30. He just sat straight up and paused the movie. I didn't even get it at first. He started saying "Oh my god, we lost an hour." I then understood what he was saying, and asked to see how far into the movie we were. The time on the movie said we had watched an hour and 20 minutes. There was no way we could have driven home from dinner, hung out, and watched an hour and 20 minutes of a movie, and it was 7:30 p.m.? It's like time stopped. Case notes are filed 2020. Glitch in time, 7:30 chimed. Well, by your description, there is absolutely no way this was simply misremembering time or anything like that. No, there are plenty of events where time in a localized area slows down for the people within that reference frame. Now again, we already know that time can dilate. If you're near a gravity well, a large gravity well, your speed relative to other things in the universe is large enough that the difference, to account for speed of light always being constant in a vacuum, really the speed of causality, time has to either elongate or constrict. And I know it doesn't really make sense, but that's how it seems to work. And you can picture it like if you're on two ships approaching each other at like 90% the speed of light, and you both shine a beam of light at each other, you will both measure that beam of light going exactly 299,792,458 meters per second in that vacuum, because that's the speed it always goes at. That's the maximum limit of speed, but it's an absolute limit, which is bizarre. How can that be if speed is always relative? Well, that's just how the universe works. It'll constrict time itself within your reference frame to make sure that you can always read and measure causality at the same rate. So basically, it's preserving the laws of physics for every person and every reference frame based on their motion through spacetime. I feel like I'm not explaining this correctly though, or not simply enough. It's really hard to boil this down simply. Suffice to say, time is not absolute. Within your own reference frame, it can be manipulated. Now, as far as we know, that can only happen with great speed, relative speed. And of course, your living room wasn't accelerating at great speed as far as we know. Outside of that, or some great gravity source, we don't know any other way to manipulate time. Maybe there are other ways and we just don't know them yet. That would be interesting, for sure. Case file number 2021, written by crispysnugglekitties. Cheddar confusion in a sealed illusion. Yesterday morning, my 3-year-old daughter wanted cheese. I usually cut her a piece from a block of cheddar. I remembered opening a new package of cheddar last week and giving her some, so I went to grab it from the fridge. I always keep it in the same basket of cheeses in the fridge, so I knew exactly where it was. When I pulled it out though, the package was sealed, completely unopened, like it was brand new. I thought I must be mistaken, so I spent some time checking the package to see if it was actually open anywhere, but it wasn't. It was definitely sealed. Confused, I went back to the fridge to look for the open package, but there wasn't another one. I tore off the plastic strip that seals the bag, opened it, and the cheese inside was already cut and used, just like I remembered from last week. The edge of the block was cut, and there was even a loose chunk of cheese where my daughter hadn't finished the piece I cut for her before. But this was all inside a sealed bag. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I wish I'd taken a video when I opened it yesterday, but I had a very hangry toddler urging me. So I just quickly cut her some cheese while standing there completely baffled. Case notes file 2021. Cheddar confusion in a sealed illusion. Oh god, a cheese glitch. Cheese is the devil. If you don't know, I hate cheese. So yes, wow. All your shocked Pikachu faces are exploding right now. But yes, I don't like it. So I would have preferred that the cheese just vanishes, but whatever. Okay, it duplicated and it's in a sealed package and it's bizarre, but I don't care about cheese. So let's move on. Case file number 2022, written by EndometrialCarcinoma. Koi's double plot, a fishy knot. Yesterday, I removed the net over my pond to find that my only Mayan koi and calico goldfish were dead. Both had signs of injury to their bodies. My mother watched me dig a hole in the ground and put my Mayan koi in. On top of the koi, I put my larger calico goldfish and covered both with dirt. I added a pile of stones on top of the grave to make sure that my chickens don't dig it up. That night, I made sure to secure every inch of the net to ensure that no animals could get into the pond and kill any other fish. This morning I took the net off the pond and watched as the same Mayan koi I had buried floated up to the top of the pond. It had a bit of dirt caked on its body. My mother saw me pull the same fish out of the pond again. We checked the grave and it was completely undisturbed. I ended up digging the grave and found the same fish still buried underneath the calico goldfish. It was identical in every way to the fish I had just pulled out of the pond, even down to the scratches on its flank. I know for a fact I only had one Mayan koi. I distinctly remember considering buying two in case one didn't make it, but I decided to only get the one so that I would have the space in my pond to get another koi if I saw the perfect one. I have no idea how I could have had two completely identical koi with identical injuries in the same exact place. Case notes file 2022, koi's double plot, a fishy knot. So you mentioned that the reappeared koi had dirt on it. So it literally was duplicated from within when it was already dead. And it was literally a duplication, like copy-paste from the ground, paste into the pond. Because of the details involved, the same scratch, the same dirt, etc., it really was the same one, just the material was just recreated. It's like a blueprint for a house, and you can simply press a button and it replicates instantly. Now the data has to be there, the blueprint, but yeah. They can be duplicated. Anything, any defined object can be recreated. Now time for the joke of the day. I bought a horse and my girl asked if I was going to race him. Not at all, I said. That horse is way faster than me. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.